He said, "Don't kill the mood," while I was holding the $9,000 charge he racked up on my credit card at my own birthday dinner in front of our entire family. And when I demanded an explanation, he laughed, then poured himself another glass of wine. But what crushed me wasn't just the theft, it was the silence. No one spoke up, not Mom, not Mariah, like I was the one ruining the night. He thought I'd let it go, like I always have. But this time, I had receipts, literal ones, and Daniel was about to learn what happens when the rigid sister fights back. My name is Nora Whitaker, and I'm 45 years old. As an office manager, I run my personal life like I do the company books, with every receipt logged and every due date circled in red. From my kitchen window, the evening jasmine winds through the screen while my signature birthday cheesecake cools on the counter. The magnetic board beside my fridge holds a satisfying stack of paid bills, each one filed on time. My younger brother Daniel, the eternal optimist with his latest can't-miss opportunity, treats my financial boundaries like friendly suggestions. He's always had that gift for making irresponsibility seem charming. What he doesn't know is that I keep every statement, archive every transaction, and photograph every receipt before it hits the trash. Old habits from our lean childhood, I suppose. But let me start from the beginning. I noticed something was off before I even opened the envelope. You know that feeling when the air gets heavy right before a storm? It was like that. The statement felt too thick between my fingers as I stood at my kitchen island, steam rising from my evening peppermint tea. When I saw the charge, my hand started shaking so bad I had to set my mug down. $9,000. A luxury travel package in Miami, posted just 3 days ago. The numbers stared back at me, bold and black against the white paper, like they were taunting me. You ever have one of those moments where your brain refuses to accept what your eyes are seeing? I must have checked those dates 5 times. Flipping back through my meticulous transaction log, comparing old statements I kept filed in my drawer. But there it was, $9,000 that I definitely hadn't spent. I knew my card by heart, no authorized users, no shared access. Just me, always careful, always responsible. The sound of car doors slamming outside made my stomach clench. My birthday dinner guests were arriving, and I could already hear Daniel's laugh floating up the driveway. For a second, I considered sliding the statement into my desk drawer, dealing with it tomorrow. But tomorrow would just give Daniel time to spin his story. No, this needed to happen now, with witnesses. I tucked the paper under a placemat and went to greet everyone. The birthday girl! Daniel swept in first, all charm and expensive cologne, carrying a bottle of wine that probably cost more than he could afford. Behind him came our cousins Sarah and Michael, then Mom with her famous green bean casserole. I moved through the motions of hosting, taking coats, directing dishes to the kitchen, accepting hugs and birthday wishes. But that statement burned under the placemat like a hot coal waiting to ignite. Once everyone was seated and the wine was poured, I raised my glass. Thank you all for coming tonight. My voice stayed steady, practiced from years of running office meetings. Before we eat, there's something I need to address. I pulled out the statement and held it up. Daniel, would you like to explain this $9,000 charge from Miami? The room went silent. Daniel didn't even flinch, just lifted his wine glass and took a slow sip of Cabernet. Come on, sis, don't kill the mood. It's your birthday. My cousins exchanged quick glances across the table. Mom suddenly found something fascinating in the fold of her napkin. The humiliation crept up my neck like a fever, but I refused to let my voice rise. The mood, I said quietly, was killed when you stole $9,000 from me. Daniel rolled his eyes like I was being dramatic about a borrowed 20. It's not stealing when it's family. Besides, you're always saying I should invest more. Answer the question, Daniel. The words came out flat and hard. Did you take my credit card and charge $9,000 without my permission? This is really what you want to do right now? He gestured at our gathered family. Make a scene at your own birthday dinner? Right now, I said, setting both palms flat on the table. This ends right now. Daniel leaned back in his chair, swirling the wine like he was at a tasting instead of a confrontation. Come on. Everyone knows family resources should benefit the whole family, right? He gestured around the table with his glass, inviting agreement. The silence that followed was heavier than Christmas dinner fruitcake. Cousin Mariah suddenly developed an intense interest in the breadbasket, passing it to Michael without looking up. Does anyone need more butter? Her voice cracked slightly, desperate to fill the void. I watched Dad's face carefully. His jaw was set in that familiar way, the same expression he wore 20 years ago when his brother emptied their joint business account. Some wounds never fully heal. They just wait under the surface for the next betrayal to wake them up. $9,000, I repeated, letting each syllable land like a stone. What exactly did you purchase with my credit card, Daniel? What service or product was worth stealing from your sister? He had the nerve to roll his eyes again. God, you're being so dramatic. It's an investment opportunity that'll benefit both of us. He reached for the wine bottle, topping off his glass without offering any to anyone else. You're always talking about planning for the future. I'm just helping speed things along. The casual way he dismissed $9,000 of theft made my hands shake. I stood up, grabbed his half-empty plate, and started clearing the table. The china clattered louder than necessary as I stacked dishes in the sink. I think we should call it a night, I announced, not bothering to soften my tone. Thank you all for coming. The scraping of chairs and awkward murmurs of happy birthday filled the dining room. I could hear Mom trying to smooth things over, making weak excuses about family being family. But the rushed footsteps toward the door told the real story. Everyone wanted to escape this disaster of a dinner party. While coats were being collected, I pulled out my phone and typed quickly. Stay behind. We need to talk. The message whooshed off to Daniel. I watched him check his phone, shrug, and keep chatting with Mariah by the door as if nothing was wrong. My blood pressure ticked up another notch. I moved to the kitchen table, deliberately setting 2 chairs facing each other. The credit card statement went between them, stark white against the dark wood. Opening my banking app, I navigated to the recent transactions page and snapped several clear photos. The timestamp would prove when I discovered the fraud. Remember those old westerns, where you could hear the gunslinger's spurs jingling as he approached the saloon for the final showdown? Daniel's footsteps had that same lazy confidence as he finally sauntered into the kitchen, like he thought this was all just another minor disagreement he could charm his way out of. I waited until he dropped into the chair across from me, that irritating smirk still playing on his lips. The clock on the microwave read 8:42 p.m. The bank opens at 9 tomorrow morning, I said evenly, meeting his gaze. We're going to solve this tonight. Transaction number 847392, merchant code 4722 for travel services, timestamp 3:42 p.m. last Tuesday. I tapped each number on the statement. Show me where I agreed to this charge, Daniel. Show me anything that proves I authorized you to spend my money. He stretched back in the kitchen chair, rolling his shoulders like we were discussing weekend plans instead of theft. It's an investment opportunity that's going to benefit both of us. Once the returns start coming in, you'll forget all about this little misunderstanding. The wine had loosened his tongue, but not his grip on reality. My stomach clenched as his words hit home. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was the casual entitlement in his voice, the absolute certainty that my finances were his to play with. You know that sick feeling when you realize someone sees you as their personal ATM? That's what was churning in my gut. I reached for the legal pad I keep by the phone, the yellow pages crisp and waiting. Investment, I wrote in clear block letters, then underlined it twice. Okay, let's see the documentation. Contracts, receipts, confirmation emails. Anything showing what this investment actually is. Daniel laughed, the sound bouncing off my freshly cleaned counters. Come on, Nora. We're family. Verbal agreements count between siblings. He spread his hands wide, like he was offering me a gift instead of excuses. You're always so rigid about these things. Sometimes you've got to trust the process. That's when it clicked, the familiar pattern I'd seen him use on others. First came the charm, then the confusion about details, and finally the delays that stretched until people gave up chasing what they were owed. I'd watched him work this playbook on friends and girlfriends, but I never thought he'd try it on me. The clock on my microwave blinked past midnight. My pen trembled slightly as I drew a straight line down the page, creating 2 columns. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, forcing steadiness into my voice. "Starting this week, you're going to begin repaying the full amount." A small voice in my head whispered about calling the bank's fraud department. But that would mean investigations, possible criminal charges, and a family explosion that would make tonight's dinner look like a picnic. Plus, they'd want to know why I hadn't noticed sooner, why I'd let him have access to my card at all. "You know what your problem is?" Daniel stood up, fishing his car keys from his pocket. "You never learn to think big. You're so focused on your little spreadsheets and budgets that you can't see the bigger picture." That familiar smirk played across his face, the one that had charmed teachers into accepting late assignments and landlords into extending rent deadlines. "But don't worry. You always fix things, right? That's what you do." My phone buzzed against the table, a social media notification lighting up the screen. I glanced down, and the air froze in my lungs. There was Daniel, tagged, in a series of photos from the Luxury Travel Miami account. Crystal clear shots of him lounging on a yacht, sipping champagne at South Beach clubs, living it up at 5-star hotels. All dated exactly when that $9,000 charge hit my card. "This is your investment?" My voice came out barely above a whisper. "A Miami vacation?" The video filled my screen. Daniel sprawled in a beachfront cabana, designer sunglasses catching the Miami sun. Sparklers jutted from champagne bottles like tiny fireworks while some DJ's bass line thumped in the background. His caption made my teeth clench. "Paid in full, baby. Remember how your parents taught you to count to 10 when you're angry?" I made it to 3 before switching to accountant mode. I'd learned long ago that numbers don't lie, even when brothers do. The posting dates lined up perfectly with his Miami timeline. 3 days of pure luxury on my dime. My investment was funding his Instagram highlight reel. "So this is what $9,000 looks like," I said, turning my phone to face him. "South Beach parties and champagne sparklers?" Daniel's smirk faltered for just a second. "Those posts are old, from last year." "Really?" I zoomed in on the timestamp. "Because this says 3 days ago, same day as the charge." I started taking screenshots, my fingers moving with the precision I usually reserved for quarterly reports. Every photo, every caption, every tagged location, straight into a folder I labeled Evidence Daniel. You ever have one of those moments where betrayal hits you so hard it actually clears your head? That's what happened as I watched those beach videos download. The hurt crystallized into something harder, something I could use. "Let me show you what actual documentation looks like," I said, pulling my statement back across the table. The itemized charges told their own story: luxury hotel booking, VIP club packages, chartered boat tour. I grabbed my legal pad and started a new page, matching each charge to his social media timeline. $2,800, Delano South Beach, tagged location, living that sweet life. $1,700, Miami Yacht Rentals, Instagram story, captain for the day. $3,200, Live Nightclub VIP service, when the bottles keep coming, with $300, miscellaneous charges at restaurants, bars, shops. The math was brutal in its clarity. Each line item corresponded to another smiling photo, another bragging caption. While I was clipping coupons and brown bagging lunches, my brother was living his best social media life, on my credit. That's when I remembered Evelyn from accounting. She was this sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who'd been through something similar with her own brother. I'd heard whispers about how she'd handled it, methodically, legally, and without mercy. She still had her brother's mugshot pinned to her cubicle wall as a reminder. I pulled up my work calendar while Daniel paced behind me, probably trying to spin another story. The morning slot was open for coffee with Evelyn. My cursor hovered over the time slot, 8:30 a.m. before the daily rush. One click, and I'd be committed to whatever came next. "You're making this into something it's not," Daniel said, his voice losing its usual smooth edge. "Family helps family. That's what we do." The waves crashed from his yacht video, still playing on loop. I hit schedule meeting and watched the calendar block turn blue. My heart was racing, but my hands were steady as I closed my laptop. "You're right about one thing," I said, standing up. "Family does help family, and tomorrow I'm getting some help figuring out exactly what to do about this." Daniel's face changed, just slightly, but enough to tell me he finally realized this wasn't going to slide like all his other schemes. "Come on, sis. We can work this out between us. No need to bring other people into family business." But I was done keeping family secrets. The evidence was saved, the meeting was set, and for the first time since seeing that charge, I felt like I was back in control of my own books. I watched the waves crash one more time in his video before closing the app. The sound of celebration, of money flowing like water. My money. Every sparkler in those bottles, every VIP entrance, every sunset yacht tour paid for by my overtime hours and careful budgeting. I got to work early that morning, clutching a manila folder like it held state secrets instead of credit card statements. The break room was empty, except for Evelyn, already at her usual spot with her steel thermos. You know the type, the kind of woman who's seen every office scam and scheme there is and keeps a red pen handy just to mark them all in blood. "Morning, Nora," she said, not looking up from her crossword. "You're here before the coffee's done brewing. Must be serious." The familiar smell of burnt office coffee brought back memories of other morning meetings, other tough conversations. But this one was different. This one was family. I slid the folder across the table and kept my voice low. "My brother took my credit card number. $9,000. Miami vacation. Posted it all over social media like some kind of trophy." Evelyn's pen stopped moving. She looked up and I saw something flash behind her reading glasses. Recognition, maybe. Or anger. "Show me everything." For the next 20 minutes, I laid it all out. The statement, the screenshots, the timeline. Evelyn asked questions like she was taking inventory. "When exactly did the charges post?" 3 days ago. "And the social media posts?" "Same day, some the day after." "You have access to all his accounts?" "Public posts only, but he tagged everything." She pulled out a legal pad and started sketching what she called a workflow, boxes and arrows showing exactly how we'd build our case. First, we download every statement. Then, we tag each merchant, timestamp the social posts, and match amounts to images. Like building a puzzle where the picture shows exactly what he did. "I can help," I said, feeling steadier with each box she drew. "Split the work." "Good. You call the bank's fraud line. Find out what proof they need and how long we have. I'll build a spreadsheet to track everything." She was already opening her laptop, creating columns, date, amount, merchant, corroboration, screenshot path. The fraud line took forever to answer. While I waited, I watched Evelyn work, her fingers flying over the keys like she was defusing a bomb. Remember when office computers had those big beige monitors that hummed? Evelyn still had one, probably because it was harder to hack than the new ones. Finally, a voice on the line. "Fraud prevention. This is Marcus." I gave him the card number, my voice steady despite my racing heart. The news wasn't good. 7 days. That's all we had before they'd freeze the account. After that, penalties would kick in, fees would stack up, and my credit score would take a hit that could take years to fix. "Reference number for your case is FRD 2023-8547, Marcus said. "Document everything." I wrote the number down, then grabbed the desk calendar and flipped to next week. Red pen, circle around next Wednesday. 1 week in capital letters that pressed so hard they showed through to the next page. Just then, my phone buzzed. New alert from my credit card app. Pending authorization request. Another charge trying to clear. You ever get that feeling in your stomach? like you're dropping down the first hill of a roller coaster? That's what hit me as I stared at that notification. 7 days suddenly felt like 7 minutes. "Evelyn," I said, turning my phone to show her. "He's still using it." She looked up from her spreadsheet, which already had 3 pages of color-coded entries. "Then we'd better work fast." She tapped her red pen against the calendar. 1 week to prove every charge, every post, every lie. "You ready?" I looked at the growing stack of evidence, at Evelyn's methodical notes, at the fraud case number that would change everything between me and Daniel. The burnt coffee smell had faded, replaced by the sharp scent of printer ink as Evelyn's machine churned out another statement. "Ready," I said, pulling my chair closer to her desk. "Show me exactly what to do." I barely touched my morning meetings. My mind kept drifting to that pending charge notification, wondering what else Daniel thought he could squeeze out of my card before the music stopped. By 11:30, I couldn't take it anymore. "Taking lunch early," I told Evelyn, grabbing my purse. She just nodded, still deep in her spreadsheet fortress. The drive home felt like moving through molasses. You know that anxious energy where your foot keeps wanting to press the gas, but you force yourself to stay at the speed limit? That was me at every red light, watching the seconds tick by. I didn't even take off my shoes when I got home, just went straight to my laptop. The account portal loaded with painful slowness. Remember dial-up internet? This was worse. Finally, the pending transactions page appeared, and there it was. Luxury cabana upgrade, $200. My hands were shaking as I took the screenshots, making sure to capture the timestamp in the corner. Daniel wasn't just continuing his spree. He was adding expensive cherries to his stolen sundae. "Not happening," I muttered, clicking through to the security settings. Found what I needed under transaction controls and disabled all card not present purchases. No more online shopping, no more phone orders. Let him try explaining that to whatever resort staff he was sweet-talking. Back at the office, Evelyn had commandeered the conference room. Papers covered the table in neat rows. She'd been busy. "Show me what you found," she said, pulling out the chair next to her. I connected my laptop and started organizing everything into what Evelyn called court-ready order. First, the annotated statements, each suspicious charge highlighted and cross-referenced. Next, a timeline I'd spent my entire morning coffee break building, Daniel's social media posts lined up perfectly with the transaction dates. "Wait," Evelyn said, tapping the timeline. "We need to prove when these posts were actually made, not just when they say they were made." She pulled up some technical tool I'd never seen before. Digital images have metadata, like DNA for photos, shows exactly when they were taken, what device was used, sometimes even the location. 10 minutes later, we had a metadata report that read like a digital confession. Original timestamps, GPS coordinates, all matching the fraud timeline perfectly. I stapled it behind the sequence of events, feeling like we were building a wall Daniel couldn't charm his way through. "You should message him," Evelyn suggested. "Give him one last chance before we file." I drafted the text, "Repayment plan due by Friday, or I proceed formally." Simple, direct, no room for manipulation. My thumb hovered over send, but Evelyn caught my wrist. "Not yet. Don't show our cards. He might try to delete evidence or worse, spin some story to the family first." She was right. I saved the draft and pulled out my personal address book instead. Started making a list of relatives who needed to know once we filed. The ones who'd stand with me, who'd understand choosing truth over artificial peace. Aunt Sarah at the top. She'd seen through Daniel's act years ago. Cousin Mariah next. She'd been oddly quiet at my birthday dinner, like she knew something was wrong. While I wrote names, Evelyn called the bank's fraud department. "Yes, we need the first available investigator. 7 tomorrow morning? Perfect." She wrote the appointment details on a sticky note and handed it to me. "Mark Davidson, extension 4721. Bring everything." I looked at that pending charge still sitting there like a storm cloud ready to burst. $1,200 more he thought he could take, on top of everything else. But this time, that cloud was going to rain receipts and screenshots instead of excuses. "You're doing the right thing," Evelyn said, seeing my expression. Sometimes, family needs limits more than they need protection. I gathered the documents into a fresh manila folder, labeled it with the fraud case number, and tucked it into my briefcase. Tomorrow at 7, I'd start turning my brother's vacation into evidence. Ever notice how bank branches always smell like fresh paper and coffee? That's what hit me first when I walked in at 6:55 the next morning, manila folder tucked under my arm like a shield. The early sunlight caught dust motes dancing in the empty lobby. Just me, my evidence, and the weight of what I was about to do. Senior investigator Carla Ortiz met me precisely at 7, her navy blazer as crisp as her handshake. No small talk, just straight to her office where a dual monitor setup waited. She pulled out a checklist and clicked her pen. "Walk me through the unauthorized charges, Ms. Whitaker," she said, sliding a legal pad between us. "Start with when you first noticed them." I laid out my folder contents in the same order Evelyn and I had arranged them. 3 days ago, I discovered a $9,000 charge from a Miami luxury travel company. Here's the original statement. I pointed to the highlighted line. My brother Daniel made this purchase without my knowledge or permission. I've never shared my card information with him. Carla nodded, making neat notes. And the evidence connecting your brother to these transactions? Here's the flash drive with everything, I said, placing it next to her keyboard. The spreadsheet tracks each charge against his social media posts. Photos, videos, timestamps, all matching the transaction dates. I've included metadata reports proving when and where the images were created. Remember those times when you're stating something obvious, but your voice still shakes? That was me, watching Carla scroll through our meticulously organized files. Each click felt like a domino falling. "Very thorough," she said, pausing on the timeline. "You mentioned this is your brother. Did you benefit from any of these purchases? Joint gifts? Shared experiences?" "No," I said firmly. "The charges were for his personal vacation. I wasn't present or invited. He never asked permission or discussed any of this with me." She turned to face me fully. "Ms. Whitaker, unauthorized use procedures are clear in cases like this, but family-linked fraud can get complicated. Have you considered possible pushback?" I pulled out my notebook. What kind of pushback should I prepare for? Emotional manipulation, attempts to retract the report, pressure from other family members. Carla printed a form and highlighted several sections. Document every contact after filing. Save texts, emails, voicemails, note dates and times of calls. If he admits to the charges in any way, record it here. My pen scratched across paper as I copied down her instructions. "What's the timeline from here?" "Preliminary decision within 3 business days," she said, checking her calendar. "That would be Monday morning. We'll call you with the result and next steps." Monday morning. The account freeze would hit Tuesday at 9 a.m. if we didn't resolve this. Talk about cutting it close. I circled both dates in my planner, drawing a thick red line between them. "One last thing," Carla added, sliding a business card across her desk. "My direct line. Call immediately if he attempts any new charges or if you feel unsafe at any point." The morning sun felt harsh when I stepped outside, like it was spotlighting every doubt I'd pushed down. I found a quiet corner of the parking lot and called Evelyn. "It's done," I said, leaning against my car. "Decision by Monday, freeze deadline Tuesday." "Perfect," Evelyn replied. "You've got the relatives list ready?" "Right here." I patted my notebook. The moment the bank accepts the report, I start making calls. Need to get ahead of whatever story Daniel might spin. Good girl. One step at a time, remember? We planned for this. My phone buzzed with a new notification. I switched screens to see those 3 little dots dancing at the bottom of my Messages app. Daniel was typing. The messages from Daniel started rolling in like thunder before a storm. "Sis, Miami was amazing R&D for future family trips. You should thank me for test driving the experience." My hands didn't shake anymore as I captured screenshots. Each message joined my evidence folder with mechanical precision. "Seriously, when did you get so cheap? It's just money." Screenshot, save, next. You know what they say about narcs in the family. Nobody forgives a snitch, sis. You know that sick feeling when someone tries making you doubt yourself? Like maybe you're the unreasonable one? Yeah, I wasn't having any of that anymore. Each threat just made my spine straighter. I looked at my short list of family calls, the 3 people whose opinions actually carried weight in our circle. Time to get ahead of whatever story Daniel was cooking up. Aunt Lila answered on the second ring. Nora? Everything okay after that birthday dinner? Not exactly. I kept my voice steady, professional. I need to inform you that I've filed a formal report regarding unauthorized charges on my credit card. There's documented evidence, and you'll receive more details soon. I wanted you to hear it from me first. Pause. Oh, honey? Daniel? Yes, that's all I can say right now. No arguments, no emotional appeals, just facts. I could almost hear Evelyn's approving nod. Cousin Mariah took it with her usual quiet dignity. Thank you for letting me know. Keep us posted. Uncle Ben was the hardest. He'd always seen himself as our second father. You're sure about this path? He asked. The evidence speaks for itself, I replied. You'll see everything once. The bank processes the report. Between calls, I worked on the group email. The subject line stayed simple. Important family notice, financial matter. I created a secure drive folder and labeled it clearly. For reference, do not share publicly. Every screenshot, timeline, and transaction record found its place inside, waiting for the bank's green light. My phone buzzed again, Daniel this time with a voice message. I didn't listen, but saved it straight to the evidence folder. Let the investigators hear whatever threats or guilt trips he'd tried. Remember how I said I track everything? That habit paid off when I checked the credit card portal. That pending charge Daniel had tried to push through? Declined. A small victory, but I'd take it. I set alarms on my phone for Monday's decision window, 8:01 a.m. Prepare for bank call, 9:01 a.m. Follow up if no contact, 10:01 a.m. Call Evelyn with update. The afternoon light was starting to soften when someone knocked on my front door. 3 sharp raps, confident and familiar. I checked through the peephole, and there stood Daniel, designer sunglasses perched on his face despite the shadow of my porch. His smile looked carved on, like a jack-o'-lantern's grin. You ever have that moment when you realize someone thinks they're playing chess while you're actually playing the long game? That was written all over his posture, shoulders back, head tilted, that smile that used to charm teachers into extending his deadlines. Ever play poker? There's this moment when you've got the winning hand, but you have to keep your face neutral while your opponent talks themselves into a mistake. That's exactly how I felt, opening my front door just wide enough to see Daniel's designer frames catch the afternoon light. My phone was already recording in my cardigan pocket, a trick Evelyn had suggested during our morning strategy session. Document everything, she'd said. Even casual conversations can crack a case wide open. Hey, sis. Daniel leaned against the door frame like we were having any other family chat. Think we need a sibling reset here. Clear the air? I kept my hand firmly on the door edge. About the $9,000? See, that's exactly the kind of negative energy we don't need. He pushed his sunglasses up onto his head, going for the earnest eye contact that used to work on me. Listen, when one of us succeeds, we all succeed, right? That card's basically community property of our shared prosperity. My stomach clenched at the sheer audacity, but my voice stayed level. The charge posted on August 15th at 2:14 p.m. Merchant code 7011. Miami Beach Resort and Spa. You're getting way too technical about this. He waved his hand like he could brush away the facts. It's family money, Nora. Family. The second charge was August 16th. Merchant code 5812. South Beach Cabana Services. Yeah, and that cabana upgrade was totally worth it. You should have seen the receipt for the bottle service alone. Got you. I watched him catch himself, that tiny flinch when he realized what he'd admitted. The same tell he'd had since we were kids, playing Go Fish. Daniel, I said, cutting off whatever backtrack he was about to attempt. I need to inform you that a formal investigation is underway with the bank's fraud department. any further communication should be through email only. His charm cracked like cheap veneer. Are you serious? After everything I've done for this family? Email only, I repeated, starting to close the door. He stepped back, adjusting his sunglasses with a jerky motion. People are going to pick sides, Nora. Remember that. I waited until his BMW disappeared around the corner before pulling out my phone and stopping the recording. The whole conversation was there, clear as day, including his slip about the receipt. I played it back once to verify the quality, then opened my email. 2. C. OrtizaFirstRegional.com. Subject: Supplemental Evidence. Implicit Admission Attachment. Audio: OG 19 1.37 MP3. Dear Ms. Ortiz, best regards, Nora Whitaker. My finger hovered over send for just a second before pressing down. The old Nora might have hesitated, might have given family ties one more chance to mean something, but that Nora didn't exist anymore. I was checking the sent folder to confirm delivery when my inbox chimed with a new message from the bank. My hands barely shook as I opened the email from First Regional Bank. The subject line alone made my breath catch. Case FR 2023-0819-1116. Fraud Investigation Acceptance. Dear Ms. Whitaker, we are writing to confirm that your fraud case has been accepted for full investigation. Based on the substantial documentation provided, we have. Please retain all evidence until our investigation concludes. Your new card will arrive within 2 to 3 business days. Sincerely, Carla Ortiz, Senior Fraud Investigator. I printed 3 copies of the letter, one for my records, one for the bank folder, and one to photograph for the family packet. The printer hummed, each crisp page feeling like another brick in the wall between Daniel's lies and my truth. Remember those old Polaroid cameras, how you'd watch the image slowly appear? That's what this felt like, watching reality develop in clear, sharp focus. I'd prepared for this moment, but my finger still hesitated over the send button on the group email I'd drafted. 2. Family Distribution List. Subject: Important information regarding recent events attachments. Bank letter PDF, statement, redacted PDF, timeline OG 2023 PDF. Dear family, I am writing to inform you that unauthorized charges totaling $9,000 were made on my credit card. I have filed a formal fraud report with documentation of all transactions. The bank has accepted the case and begun their investigation. To maintain clarity, attached are the relevant documents for your reference. Regards, Nora. I hit send and watched the delivery confirmations roll in. Within minutes, my phone started lighting up like a Christmas tree. Aunt Rose sent 3 prayer hand emojis. Uncle Ben wrote, "Call me," despite my explicit instructions not to. Cousin Mariah's "Oh my God" came with 5 exclamation points. But it was the silence from certain quarters that spoke loudest. My office phone rang. Aunt Lila's number. Against my better judgment, I picked up. "Nora?" Her voice was tight with concern. "Daniel's telling people you're trying to sabotage his new startup. Says that money was for investor meetings or something." My laugh came out harder than intended. His startup? Let me guess. He didn't mention the Miami Beach resort? He said it was a business development retreat. Check your email, I cut in, already typing a new message. 2. Family Distribution List. Subject: Clarification Attachment, Miami Evidence.zip. Since questions have been raised about the nature of these charges, I'm providing additional context. These screenshots are from public social media posts during the dates in question. I attached 3 photos: Daniel with champagne sparklers in the cabana, his "paid in full baby" caption, and a time-stamped receipt showing bottle service charges. Each image was, crystal clear, impossible to explain away as anything but what it was: a luxury vacation on my dime. "Oh," Aunt Lila said quietly, and I heard the notification ding on her end. "Oh, Nora?" "No more phone calls," I reminded her gently, and hung up. I was updating my evidence log with the latest communications when my phone buzzed with a social media alert. Daniel had just made a public post. The notification showed Daniel's profile picture, that smirking headshot he used for networking. My screen filled with his carefully crafted thread. You know that feeling when someone rewrites your story while you're still living it? My temples throbbed, but I kept my hands steady as I screen capped his post. The comments started flowing. Heart emojis from his startup buddies, vague encouragement from distant cousins who didn't know better. Such wisdom, D. Can't wait to hear more about this venture, posted Cousin Greg. I clicked reply and sent a private message. Greg, for context, followed by the bank's acceptance letter and the merchant timeline. No commentary needed. The timestamps told their own story. Luxury resort charges, cabana rentals, champagne service. His seen notification popped up. His public comment disappeared 5 minutes later. The pattern repeated as each supportive comment rolled in. I'd send a quiet, factual message with documentation. Like dominoes, the cheerleading posts began vanishing. Even Daniel's startup circle grew quieter as the truth spread through private channels. You'd think revenge would taste sweeter, but honestly, I just felt tired. Tired of being the responsible one. Tired of watching others learn lessons the hard way. My email pinged. Another message from Carla Ortiz. Dear Ms. Whitaker, our investigation has concluded. Based on comprehensive evidence, we find, please destroy your old card upon receipt of the replacement. Contact our fraud department if you observe any unusual activity. Regards, Carla Ortiz, Senior Fraud Investigator. Remember how I said I don't gloat? I meant it. I simply forwarded the decision to my evidence folder and watched Daniel's social media presence shrink in real time. His upcoming events section went quiet. The launch party invites disappeared. Even his profile picture changed to something less cocky, a plain headshot against a white wall. The final piece clicked when Aunt Lila messaged, "Just saw the bank's decision. I'm so sorry, honey. We all enabled him too long." That's the thing about family enablers. They often know exactly what they're doing. They just need permission to stop. The bank's formal ruling gave them that permission. I walked to my kitchen. The evening, sun painting everything in soft amber. The same counter where I'd first opened that devastating statement now held my old credit card and a pair of kitchen scissors. My hand didn't shake anymore as I lined up the blade with the magnetic strip. You'd think cutting up a credit card would feel more dramatic, but it was just plastic in the end. Clean cuts, right through the numbers Daniel had memorized without permission. Sunlight caught the edge of the scissors as I made the first cut. The metallic crunch was oddly satisfying, like cutting through old chains. 2 clean halves, the numbers split perfectly down the middle. You ever notice how something that once held so much power can look so small once it's broken? I slid the pieces into a manila envelope marked for shredding, seal it tight, and wrote today's date in the corner. No dramatic gestures, no ceremonial burning, just practical disposal for a practical end. The replacement card arrived in one of those plain white envelopes that try too hard to look unimportant. Inside, nestled in generic cardboard, lay my fresh start. The raised numbers caught the light, a completely different sequence that Daniel would never know. Remember those little velvet jewelry pouches your grandmother used to keep? I had one tucked away in my dresser, dark blue with a silver drawstring. Perfect. Size for a credit card. The new plastic slipped inside like it was made for it, and that soft fabric felt like armor somehow. Top desk drawer. That's where important things go. Birth certificate, passport, and now this symbol of rebuilt trust. The key turned with a solid click that felt like punctuation. Had to smile, thinking how Daniel would have called this excessive, locking up a credit card like crown jewels. But that was exactly the point. He'd never understood. Sometimes the smallest boundaries matter most. I took a quick photo of the locked drawer, added it to my Evidence Daniel folder, then created a new one called Fresh Start. First image in a new chapter. Practical poetry, if you ask me. My phone buzzed. Another email from Carla Ortiz. Final update. Mr. Whitaker has agreed to structured repayment over 18 months. Full amount secured by wage attachment. Credit bureaus have been notified of unauthorized use. Case status. Resolved. The word resolved sat there like a full stop at the end of a very long sentence. No fireworks, no dramatic confrontation, just the quiet satisfaction of systems working exactly as they should. Evelyn's name lit up my phone next. Mission accomplished? She asked, that smile in her voice. Thanks to you, I said. Let me buy you lunch next week? Tuesday work? That little Mediterranean place? Perfect. I owe you more than hummus, though. She laughed. You don't owe me anything. Just keep those spreadsheets balanced, yeah? After we hung up, I opened my personal ledger, the one with the marbled cover that always reminded me of courthouse steps. Fresh page, crisp lines, everything in its column. Credits, debits, and that beautiful bottom line that proved you could rebuild after betrayal. The late afternoon light slanted through my office window, catching the brass key still standing in the drawer lock. Such a small thing, that key, but it represented something bigger, the difference between generosity and gullibility, between love and limits. I gave the key one final turn, listening to the tumblers fall into place. From now on, trust would be earned, not borrowed. No exceptions, no matter whose DNA matched mine. That's the thing about family and finances. Blood might be thicker than water, but ink tells the truth.